Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today we're diving into one of those political stories that has South Africa talking, laughing, and shaking its head all at once. It's a clash between Democratic Alliance heavyweight Helen Zille and President Cyril Ramaphosa. The topic: his old business connections, particularly with telecoms giant MTN. And trust me, this story is not just about phone calls and data bundles. It's about trust, power, and the blurred lines between politics and business. So here's the scene. Helen Zille, chairperson of the DA's Federal Council, stood up in Cape Town and dropped a political grenade. She reminded South Africans that before becoming president, Cyril Ramaphosa had major corporate ties, including a stake in MTN. And while he may have declared his assets years ago, Zille argued that South Africans still don't know the full extent of how those connections might have influenced government decisions. She put it plainly, we deserve to know whose interests are being served. Now, let's not kid ourselves. This wasn't just a friendly call for transparency. This was political strategy. Because what's one of the biggest frustrations in South Africa right now? A lack of accountability. People feel like leaders never fully explain their choices. So when Zille connects Ramaphosa's past business life with today's government decisions, she taps directly into that public frustration. And she picked her battlefield wisely. The telecommunications sector is no small deal. We're talking about spectrum allocation, the thing that determines how mobile networks operate and how much you pay for data. For years, South Africans have complained about data being too expensive, and the fights around who gets spectrum have been messy, political, and worth billions. So when Zille points at MTN, she's basically saying, are we sure the president is acting for the people, or is he protecting old business pals? Of course, the ANC hit back immediately. Party spokesperson Malenji Bengumatsiri dismissed Zille's comments as political point scoring. According to the ANC, Ramaphosa has long since declared his business holdings, and nothing has been hidden. To them, this is just a desperate attempt by the DA to score cheap points instead of fixing their own problems. But here's the thing. In politics, it's not always about proof. It's about perception. And perception can be powerful. Political analyst Dr. Ongamam Timke explained that questioning corporate ties plays into the broader distrust people already have toward elites. In other words, you don't need evidence of corruption. You just need to remind voters that politicians and big business are often in the same room. Once the doubt is planted, people start connecting dots on their own. And you know South Africans love connecting dots. Let's be real. If your network drops in the middle of a WhatsApp call, some people will now half-jokingly say, oh, you see, Cyril is still cashing checks from MTN. That's how quickly a political jab can become a running joke. But humor aside, there's a deeper issue here. South Africa has a long history of blurred lines between business and politics. Many politicians have had business interests, and many business leaders have dipped into politics. The result is a constant suspicion that decisions are being made behind closed doors to benefit the connected few, while ordinary citizens get stuck with load shedding, high prices, and endless queues. Ramaphosa himself is the perfect symbol of this tension. He started as a trade union leader, then became a billionaire businessman, and then returned to politics. To some, that makes him the ideal leader who understands both workers and capital. To others, it makes him suspect, someone who will never fully leave his boardroom instincts behind. Now, Helen Zille knows this history well. She didn't accuse Ramaphosa of corruption. She didn't claim to have smoking gun evidence. What she did was even more effective. She asked a question, whose interests are being served? And when you ask that question loudly enough, people start to wonder, even if they don't have the answer. For the ANC, this is dangerous territory. The party is already losing ground with voters who are tired of corruption scandals, tired of infighting, and tired of promises that never seem to materialize. Ramaphosa has tried to present himself as the clean-up president, the man who came in after Zuma to restore integrity. But if opposition leaders keep poking holes in that image, even without proof, it can weaken the ANC further. Let's not forget, elections are on the horizon. The DA knows it cannot beat the ANC just by talking about potholes and broken streetlights. It needs to attack the ANC where it hurts, on credibility. And by linking Ramaphosa to MTN and past business dealings, they shift the debate from service delivery to can you trust the president at all? And this is where voters come in. South Africans don't need another lecture on the cost of data. They live it every day. They don't need a reminder that politicians play games. They see it all the time. What they want is straight answers, and Zille is gambling that by raising doubts, the ANC will look like it's hiding something, even if it isn't. Think about how this plays on the ground. In townships and suburbs alike, when people hear that the president once had shares in MTN, they may not care about the details of parliamentary declarations. What they hear is that the president used to be in business with the same companies that now make their data expensive. And suddenly, the personal pain of buying a 1 gigabyte bundle feels connected to politics at the very top. And isn't that the genius of opposition politics? You don't need to prove the link. You just need to make people feel the link. So where does this leave us? On one side, Helen Zille and the DA, hammering away at Ramaphosa's image as an independent and accountable leader. On the other, the ANC brushing off the criticism as desperate politicking. And in the middle, millions of South Africans juggling high living costs, endless political drama, and now wondering if every no-signal moment on their phone is a metaphor for their leadership. The question, of course, is whether the strategy will work. Will South Africans see this as a legitimate concern about transparency, or as a cheap shot by an opposition that has its own problems? That's the gamble. But one thing is certain, this debate will not go away. As we get closer to the next election, expect opposition parties to dig even deeper into Ramaphosa's past, and expect the ANC to keep insisting that everything is above board. At the heart of it, this story is about trust. Can we trust our leaders when they say they've left their business interests behind? Can we trust opposition leaders when they claim to be acting in the public interest? Or are we just caught in the middle of another round of political theater? Those are the questions South Africans will carry with them into the voting booth. And that's where I'll wrap it up for today. If you enjoyed this breakdown of the latest political clash, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Ramaphosa's past business ties matter today, or is this just Zille doing what opposition politicians do best, throwing stones at the president's house? Thanks for watching, stay informed, and as always, stay sharp. See you next time.